So again, as we do the recording, it's just myself that's being recorded, none of the participants. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of Being Your Best You, the Mindful Education series. I'd like to acknowledge with gratitude that this series has been made possible through the Joy Fund and the Join Work Committee here at Unity Health Toronto. And just as a reminder about last week's session, so last week I introduced Dr. Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. I've put those resources into the chat, and it's also posted with the recording, which is on YouTube and Vimeo, just so that you can have a reference for that if you missed last week. And I've also put in the chat that the recordings can be found with the name Sarah Kim, all one word, _MD, and that's Sarah with an H. So please excuse any technical hiccups and possibly the low quality of this production because I don't have a lot of video experience and I have no tech support. With that, why don't we begin with an arrival meditation. So find yourself in a comfortable position, either seated, standing, you could be lying down if you'd like to. And let's begin by noticing the temperature of the air in the room that you're in. Perhaps the air is still, or perhaps the air is moving. Allow your hands to rest comfortably, seeing if you can let them yield to gravity. Notice the contact of your body with the surface that is supporting you and any sensations that the contact gives. Is it hard or soft, warm or cool? What feelings or sensations are present? If there is any discomfort arising or restlessness, seeing if you can remain curious about this experience rather than try to chase it away. Seeing if you can accept and stay with whatever is tugging at your attention right now from a place of inquisitiveness. Open your ears to the sounds in the room, where the sounds are coming from, the qualities of the sound. Bring gentle awareness to the sensations that may be arising in your body as you listen, whether they be pleasant or unpleasant. If there are too many thoughts, frustrations, anxieties, or things flooding your mind that are taking you out of this moment in your body, that's okay. You don't have to push anything away. Remaining curious about these thoughts if you are able, and if you can't do that today, that's okay too. Allowing whatever is happening inside of you to be, but seeing if you can also take this moment as an opportunity to look at yourself with gentleness, compassion, a moment of rest to be with yourself. So with that, why don't we join the session again. And for today's lesson, I'd like to introduce a few other concepts to build upon last week's lesson of Dr. Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. So in the Buddhist framework, they will often talk about small mind versus big mind. This is also sometimes referred to as the little I versus the big I. So when you're in big mind, or where the big I is the one that's dominating the experience, generally you're in an open and flexible state. Calm, compassionate, curious. And this may sound familiar. And so if we go back to the hand model of the brain, this is also talking about when so again, the brain is sitting in my head. This is the frontal cortex. Midbrain is here in the middle. Right here is the brainstem, spinal cord, where all the signals are coming in. So when I am in a place where my experience is being integrated, in particular by the prefrontal cortex, I'm usually in a state that is open and receptive, feeling at ease. But when I'm way down with worries, so when there's lots of worries coming in, lots of stuff, and things are not keeping your lid on so well, and that maybe it's coming a bit offline, that's considered being more in small mind. When there's just being a lot of little thoughts, that's actually preoccupying most of the activity. So when I'm able to step out of myself and observe myself in the worry, I'm observing myself in my big mind with my big I. Now, our brains have evolved to allow us to step out of our experiences, to be observers of our experience. And this is where I'd like to spend some time talking about being in an experience versus being with. I've been using this language a lot of in versus with since training a bit in a therapeutic framework called internal family systems, which was developed by Richard Schwartz, Dr. Richard Schwartz, who's by training a family therapist. And I've actually placed the resources, a few resources about his work in the chat. And in the coming weeks, we will talk more in depth about the application of using the internal family systems approach. But for today, I just want to focus on this idea of being with an experience rather than being stuck in it. So I'll give an example to illustrate. So during COVID, I've noticed in myself a particular urge in the mornings to eat chocolate for breakfast. And, you know, I often will just like come down to the kitchen. It's like, oh, I really, really would like some chocolate this morning. My day would be so much better if I just started with chocolate. And that's often a place where it's coming from small mind, where I really feel like I need this chocolate in order to cope with my day. Now, if I look at this more with my big mind is asking, what's this about? Where is this coming from? I'm noticing there's tension in the body. Maybe there's some jaw tension. There's a lot of different things that are spinning in my mind. And I'll have an internal dialogue with myself, with my small mind saying, just give me the chocolate. I'll be just fine if I eat this chocolate. Whereas the big mind is like, what's happening here? Being curious about it. So that's just like hopefully an entertaining example, maybe you relate to it, of small mind versus big mind, where the experience is happening simultaneously. Like you don't have to necessarily look at it as two separate things in time. But when we do mindfulness practices, we get better at being able to step aside and be with ourselves in this experience rather than being really stuck in the moment of just being overwhelmed with the anxious thoughts that might be coming, the fears, the worries. And to remind you, mindfulness practice actually changes the physical structure of your brain and nervous system, because when you meditate on a regular basis, we do find that the effect on the amygdala, which is where fear and the fear and emotion center house, and where a lot of the stress response starts to amplify, the amygdala actually shrinks over time when you do more of these practices. The prefrontal cortex actually thickens, and your ability for empathy also increases. There are other detailed things around the physical structures that change. And vagal tone also increases, and your vagus nerve actually helps you come back into a relaxed state after a stressful event. So you become more efficient at coming out of stress into a more relaxed state. Now, I would like to end our discussion for today with the word curious. I found the word curious, the usefulness of the word curious really crystallized for me when I was doing my mindful psychotherapy training with one of my teachers, Bill Gayner, who is a social worker by training. And he's continues to contribute some wonderful work in the field of mindfulness meditation and emotion-focused mindfulness therapy. And I've also included actually his webpage if you'd like to read more about his work as well. And During this training, Bill would often remind us to observe our experiences with gentle curiosity, which I found really worked for me as a cue. Because while, perhaps I seem very calm and gentle to you right now, inside of me exists a rather unrelenting, harsh critic who is quite the opposite of gentle. So the cue of reminding myself to be gentle and observe myself with gentle curiosity has often helped me to calm that fiery and controlling bossy dragon inside of me. And um, just to recap, when you're in small mind or in your little I, or when you're in your experience, often your experience seems chaotic, overwhelming, and most people feel very rigid or stuck or fearful. But when you're in big mind, or when you're in your bigger I, or being with yourself, you're able to be more calm and serene, open, flexible, and you often actually are able to have more compassion for yourself when you're in this state, when your lid is on, and the prefrontal cortex is really online and integrating your experience. So for this week, I'd like to give you the homework. So last week's homework was just noticing what's going on in your body, what's noticing your thoughts. And this week, I would like you to try noticing with curiosity. Are you in the experience, or are you with your experience? Can you step outside to be more with yourself? And that's all for, let's try to keep it simple. So again, just noticing from time to time what's happening. And in the coming weeks, we'll flesh out these concepts more of the big mind versus small mind and introduce some more tools for connecting more clearly with yourself. And I've also dropped into the chat a resource to a Tedx talk by a Tibetan monk, Master Heng, and it's entitled 5 Hindrances to Self-Mastery, but he gives a nice framework of going through the process of noticing what you do once you notice, taking yourself to a point where you can actually start to be more with yourself. And with that, I just want to close with a short closing meditation. So again, I invite you to connect with the surface that you're resting on, the surface that's supporting you, bringing some awareness to your breath, just noticing the rhythmic quality of your breath. No need to change it. And as you breathe in, just taking in what your body needs. And with each exhalation, expelling what your body doesn't. Feeling again the air in the room, hearing the sounds, and perhaps noticing if you're able to be with yourself in this moment of rest that you're taking. And over the week, seeing if you can take another one of these small moments, another few, again, just to be with yourself and just to observe yourself with gentle curiosity. So thank you, everyone. That's our session for today. If there's any questions, please drop them into the chat. We do have a few minutes. Otherwise, have a calm, collected few more moments before you enter your work world, and hopefully you can carry that through for a little bit of your day anyways. And if you can't, that's also okay. This is also why they call it a practice. You can start with little steps, and then as we do this more, you'll find that actually you get better at it. And thank you again for joining us. We'll be here again next Thursday at 12:15. Tuesdays at 6:45 a.m. And I will also put this on YouTube. As much as I really don't like YouTube, I put it on YouTube and on Vimeo, whichever interface works for you if you want to refer to it again in the future. Okay, to take care, everyone. And I'll stop the recording now.